Hi guys, this is Round the Table with Josh and Darragh, a conversational podcast from your two favourite idiots. That's Josh.
And that's Darragh.
This is an off-the-cuff conversation between two friends who don't take themselves very seriously.
And neither should you.
Oh, and we don't check our facts thoroughly.
And neither should you.
Hope you enjoy the podcast. Thanks for listening. Boosh, and we're back.
And we are.
So, getting into it. Bit of music, man.
Yeah.
Thought we'd discuss some music.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So I had a few things that we're both, would you say musicians?
Well, we appreciate music.
We appreciate music. We play
Some music.
to a standard, a level.
A certain degree.
I wouldn't call it a high level. Well, we both technically gigged, have we not?
I've played music before, and I recently played the accordion at a New Year's party.
Exactly, yeah, that's kind of a gig.
Got some good old Russian folk songs in the go. Kalinka.
Kalinka?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good.
So
fun.
what instruments do you play? You play the accordion?
Played the accordion, guitar, played a bit of piano when I was younger,
Yeah.
and just recently got a banjo for Christmas. So
Banjo.
That's been soaking up my time recently.
Very exciting. You played the intro for the pod.
I do indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
Cool.
You guys
man.
enjoyed that?
I shred a little guitar.
You do indeed.
Shred a little guitar. I think I used to do piano as well when I was younger. I never really liked it. I really wish I'd stayed onto it because it's kind of the master instrument, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
I mean, everything comes off that. I mean, if you're going to write stuff, you kind of need to have a piano basis.
Definitely, if you want to be like a composer or something. But
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, my piano teacher we had, he was a brutal man.
Really?
So basically I'd be playing the piano in our living room at home, and every time I'd make like a false note, he'd like pinch my fingers.
He'd pinch your fingers?
He'd pinch my fingers, or he'd like hit me in the finger with like a stick or something, and it was horrible.
Was this the late 18th century or something?
It feels like it.
What would he hit you with? Like a stick?
I can't. He had like a little like reed or something with him, but he was not the most forgiving
That's
gentleman.
brutal. Was this like through school, or was this like a private?
This was just a private guy that would come around. I can't remember his name, but this was ages ago. Yeah, when I was I think it was 8 to 10 kind of age.
8 to 10, just getting your fingers pinched.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time.
That's horrible. That's literally horrible.
So I think I only did that for a couple of years, and then after that I played. I just kind of taught myself, and that's what I do with every other one of my instruments. I tend to kind of watch YouTube videos, or with guitar and banjo, I kind of find like online tabs, which are so handy.
Yeah. I think you've got the ear for it though. You've obviously got, because like with the languages, and you pick up languages very quickly, I think you've got like a real ear for music and for instruments, because considering when you first got the accordion, which I've had a go on, and it is incredibly hard.
And very loud.
It's so loud. Our neighbours last year when we lived together, bless them, all the time. The amount of times I got woken up to the accordion.
No, I need to apologise to my flatmate right now, previous and current.
Yeah, bless Jesus, it was loud. I remember the guitar teacher that I had. So I did a bit of piano when I was younger, and then I had another guitar teacher, and it was quite formulaic. We would go in and he would teach me kind of a song, and the song would be kind of to teach me about a certain musical style. So I think one of the first songs I ever learnt was like Blink-182's All the Small Things.
Okay.
Because that was like power chords, and it was a pretty simple song, and it was to learn like the power chords, which is kind of the basis of quite a lot of like easy playing rock music. And then he would like give me the song, and I would go away for a week, and I would come back, and I would ask me to play the song, but I didn't really like the guy, I didn't really like the scenario, and so I never really learned, and I maybe went for like 6 or 7 sessions, and then kind of just wasn't interested anymore. And then I obviously had the guitar, and this was maybe when I was like 11, and then maybe when I was like 13 or 14, I was like, do you know what, I want to get back into guitar. Like, I think it's really cool. I've been fiddling around on it. I'd like some kind of trying to teach myself, but I had no real basis to go off. And my mum used to do pottery at this place in Farnham where I used to live called the Mulberry, and she used to do pottery with this guy called Yarrow. He was this Polish guy, like just oozing with wisdom.
Okay.
And he kind of smelled funny, but he was
oozing
definitely
with something else.
Yeah, he was definitely like he was an incredibly intense guy, and he taught mum pottery, and I think she just mentioned to him in passing that, you know, oh, my son wants to learn guitar, and he was like, oh, I know guitar, I'll come and teach him. And so he came, and maybe it was only for like 6 months or something. He would come like every week or every second week, but he didn't really teach me songs. He taught me like the essence of music.
Okay.
Kind of. He was so intense, man.
Magic
so
behind
funny.
music.
Yeah. So he kind of taught me some basic scales and like how to work out songs, and kind of gave me some of the basis of stuff. And there's still a lot of like little, you know, the little gypsy song that I play.
Oh yeah.
That was one I learned from him. Some like Polish folk stuff.
Yeah.
And then
Is that Polish song?
I don't know if it's Polish. I guess it might have been because he was it was just a folk song.
Yeah.
It might have been. It could have been from anywhere. Yeah. I think a lot of the like techniques are fairly ubiquitous. But it was funny. He was intense, man. I like Yarrow, and then he gave me the basis, and then kind of a bit like you, I just learnt from tabs and listening to stuff and that. And then I was in a band when I was 16.
No.
Can't remember what we were called. I think
this the hip hop band?
No, this was not. So that was another. So I was in a hip hop group when I was. Actually, maybe I was in a band when I was 15 then.
Yeah.
And I think originally it was me, a guy called Rowan, and his brother Larry. Rowan was on rhythm guitar. Yeah. Larry was the bassist. Our mate Max, who was an incredible guitarist, and then another guy Tom.
Coming from you, that's quite a compliment.
I'm really not that good, Josh. Max was like, I'm pretty sure he might be in a band or tour with a band. I haven't seen him in a long time. Yeah. But there's a guy called Tom on the drums, very accomplished band. They needed a singer and got me involved. That was their first mistake. I'm not a bad singer, but I can't remember words to save my life.
Oh, okay. But you can make it up along as you go.
I did do a bit of that, a bit of ad-libbing. And I think also as well, like the stuff that they wanted to play, they were kind of like, I think the band as a whole, big influences were like Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, and that wasn't really the kind of music that I was as interested in. I remember we did a couple of gigs, but one gig we did was in this like bar down in Portsmouth, and it was kind of the first kind of gig we'd done, and because the music is quite like it's pretty like crazy, and I was like rocking. I really got into it as like the front man. I was like rocking and I was swearing and stuff. And I remember afterwards, Rowan and Larry's mum was like, "You're a bit sweary up there, Darragh. It's maybe a bit unnecessary." Yeah, but that was fun. And then there was the hip hop group, obviously, that I was in for a bit.
What were you called again?
G9 Record. Oh wait, going back, sorry, to the band. I think Larry wanted to call us Jailbait.
Jailbait.
And I think we didn't have a name, and he was like, I think Jailbait's a cool name. I think he just heard the word, and then he mocked up like a logo that was Jailbait, and then we had to be like, mate, do you know what Jailbait is? And he was like, no, and we were like, it's like a girl who's like underage that like is baiting you into going to jail. And he was like, oh shit, we can't call ourselves Jailbait. We're like, obviously not, it's a terrible name. But then, there was a hip-hop group, G9 Records, big up the Massive, Farnham Massive. And that was basically it was me, Sam, and Ike. Yeah. And Ike's dad was an actual producer.
Really?
Yeah. I think he worked with, like, the Sugar Babes and Kylie Minogue. Like, he had some pretty big accolades under his belt. And they had, like, a home recording studio. Mm-hmm. And we would just go around and we recorded a few songs. They're pretty bad. Ike was a good rapper.
Yeah. Was this was the hip hop group?
This was the hip hop group, yeah. He was a pretty good rapper. I just kind of did singing, and then Sam did the editing.
Who was the front man?
We didn't really have a front man. We never did a gig.
Did you have a hype man?
I guess Sam would have been the hype man. Okay. He produced it as well. Yeah. But unfortunately, there was creative differences.
Oh, okay.
And kind of, I wanted to do more singing stuff, and they were more old school hip hop, and we kind of
drove a wedge between you.
Yeah, man, we grew apart. I remember I knew I was out of the band when they recorded a song without me. They didn't tell me. They
What?
just recorded a song without me.
The beginning and the end.
I think what it was they were like, oh, we're going to record a song. And I was like, okay, what do you want me to do on it? And they were like, we'll let you know.
Well, our people will contact you.
Yeah, our people will get in touch with your people. And their people never got in touch. So that was me out of G9 Records. So by the time I was like 16,
Yeah.
you know, I'd been in a rock band, I'd been, been in a hip hop group.
Been at all.
Yeah, my career was on the decline. And I wasn't even...
You shone bright at short.
Yeah. Like a flare. But you did some gigs, you were telling me, in summer in...
Yeah, no, I played around for some people at some parties, and yeah, it was good fun. I enjoy it, except I just need to work on my guitar, because I can play quite a few songs, but it's mainly kind of classical Spanish.
So what was it you were doing? Where were you playing though? You were in Vineyards, was it?
Yeah, no, I was just down in France, in the Languedoc, and it was good fun. It was good fun. I enjoyed it. But I'm planning on doing a bit of busking back here. But yeah, I just need to work on what I want to do. But
it's quite difficult to get a set together, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I think when I was doing the open mics at the Union, that was one thing that was difficult. Was you kind of learn a selection of songs, and then it ended up essentially being the same stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And me and Mikey would do songs together,
Yeah.
and then I had some of my own songs, and he had some of his own songs, and kind of between the pair of us, kind of would do a few bits like that. It wasn't just us, but I felt like we always did the same songs. And after kind of 3 years of it, towards the end,
you would have gotten good at those 3 songs.
We were good at them, but it was definitely a bit of like, you know, if there was a great number of talented musicians that were on the entertainments committee while I was there, but sometimes it would get to a stage where like no one else would want to go up, or like, you know, Ronan would be having a drink or chatting to someone, or like someone else would be doing something else, and so me and Mikey would kind of look at each other and be like, oh, how should we do Get Lucky again? But it is difficult, I think, and having that experience of playing regularly to pretty small crowds, but crowds nonetheless, playing regularly.
It was a good turnout down
there. Sometimes it would be, but I think it was more just when you go into like ginties, and there's like the guys who go in there and they have like 90 minutes worth of songs. I do kind of tip my hat off to them, because the thing that was the most difficult for me was learning the words. I forget the words, the songs that I've written, let alone the other ones. But no, it was good fun.
Because I remember one time I went down to the Union and we played. I think I went up and I played Hallelujah with Mikey.
Yeah.
And that was good fun. But I remember you guys were really keen to get people up, because not a lot of people were wanting to do it. It
was weird. It was very week dependent, because like some weeks we would come and it would kind of essentially just be a gig of like Ents people, and the kind of, you know, 6 to 10 Ents members that were there would just kind of play songs intermittently, and you wouldn't really get a lot of people up. And then other weeks you would have situations where I might have learnt a new song and I almost didn't get a chance to do it because there were so many people. Sometimes when we did prizes and stuff like that, or in like refreshers or during Freshers Week and stuff like that, you'd get other people coming along and stuff. And there's a lot of very talented people who hide it, I think, as well. And I think it's quite nerve-wracking getting up on stage. I think there's a lot of people who are...
It was terrifying.
Yeah. That's the one. That was the easiest thing for me, I think, after a while. The only issue was if I ever played any of my own stuff, because there's a kind of validation point of view, and like it's different to something like stand-up comedy or like poetry.
I think it's very similar.
It's similar, but at the end of the day, if you're playing a song, if you're playing like Sweet Caroline, everyone's going to go dun dun dun, you know. But if you're doing a joke, no one like. So I walked into a bar. Say it with me if you've heard this one before. Do you know what I mean? Nobody really does that. So,
but as in, like, if you were to like write your own song and you were to go up and play it, it would kind of be the same kind of like gratification as if you'd like come up with a good joke.
I think there is similarities to it, but at the end of the day, and I'm fascinated by stand-up comedy. Me and you both quite interested in it. At the end of the day, like, you can tell a joke, and if it's not funny, it hasn't served its purpose. Yeah. Whereas you can sing a song, and it doesn't need to be the best song in the world, but you can be like, oh, it was nice to listen to in the background. Yeah. And especially if you're not there specifically to see, like, if you're there just to have a drink and it's nice to have music on in the background, it's less intense, I think, singing than it is doing comedy.
Yeah, it's almost like, I've never really done stand-up comedy, so I'm not sure, but with music, as long as you kind of know the song, you can kind of relax into it, I think. Yeah. And like, you just kind of let the song do the kind of speaking for you. Yeah. You know what I mean? But whereas with stand-up, it's a lot more kind of, it's you on the show. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's you on display. And
you're not hiding behind like an instrument or your voice.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's much more intense in that. And it's something I've kind of always wanted to do, is to try and do stand-up comedy. Because... not that I think I'm particularly funny, but I think that it's the most raw kind of artistic thing you can do, because...
especially unfiltered comedy.
Oh, God, yeah. Because, like, even with some of the open mics or some of the stuff I've done, as I say, yeah, you're hiding behind a song, or maybe you're doing it with someone else, and so you're kind of splitting the focus, whereas something like that is pretty intense.
Yeah, definitely. And also with songs and comedies, you can't go up there and do the same song like 20 years down the line or whatever. If you were a band, like, say you do like your hits at a concert, but you couldn't do your hits as a joke, or really in terms of jokes. Like, it always has to be fresh, and it always has to be.
I think that comedians do tour with.
They need to work with their sets.
They do tour with a set, and they will change it in the same way that a band or an artist will tour with stuff. But yeah, I guess you can't go, like, it'd be like Kevin Bridges going back and doing the bus stop joke.
Yeah.
Like, he can't really. I don't think he would ever do that.
Yeah, because it's like the law of diminishing returns, kind of. Yeah. With jokes, there's only so many times you can say it, but a song seems to be timeless.
Yeah, I get what you mean. So carry on from, like, music, because this is something we said we were going to discuss this the other day, and so I've been thinking to myself, like, what were kind of top albums, what were top bands that I really liked growing up, what was stuff that I really listened to, and I don't know if I could necessarily pick like a top 5, but if I was thinking of like 5 like pretty influential albums on me. You're saying, like, we both like Kings of Leon.
Yeah.
I like Because of the Times.
I love Kings of Leon. Only by Night as well. It's a great album.
Is that one of the more recent ones?
One of the older ones, yeah.
Or one of the older ones?
Yeah.
I kind of flitted in and out of them.
It's the one with the eagle.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, there was one that some of the more recent stuff I wasn't as like sold on.
I don't know what it is, but every single one of their songs they did just seemed to land with me. I just love, like, even if I hadn't heard any of the new albums or whatever, if I just put it on, I love them. I don't know why. Just a big fan of Kings of Leon.
They're a cool band, and have you heard the story of kind of, so they're kind of all related?
Yeah, why they're, yeah.
I think the lead singer Caleb and the drummer are brothers, and then the other two are cousins. But when they first started touring with their first album, the bassist, the cousin, was 14 years old.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. And so he was like going on tour when he was like a kid.
Yeah.
And obviously like going drinking and doing all this kind of crazy stuff when he was like 14 years old, and I was like, that is just so ridiculous.
That is insane.
Yeah, they all have the surname Followill.
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 Yeah.
Caleb, Jared, Nathan, and Matthew. Yeah,
because I know they're all related, because they I think, I'm not sure how factual this is, but I think their father was called Leon, and he died, and they named the band after him, Kings of Leon.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
Which
cool.
is it's a fun wee fact.
So they're a cool band. I really like them. I haven't seen them live, but I love them. Another one, obviously, for me is Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh yes, definitely. Love them.
Big Chili's fan.
They've got some weird shit out there, but they've got some great songs.
Some of their B side music is like really good. Like, have you heard Cabron? Cabron, and which means
ding, ding,
does it not mean cunt in Spanish?
It means Spanish, yeah.
And if you listen to the lyrics, it's quite funny.
It's just a naughty word.
But Chili's are great. Foo Fighters as well. Ooh. Big one for me.
Yeah, I love Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl's amazing, man. Yeah. I didn't really listen a huge amount to Nirvana. Like, I've listened to their stuff.
Did you see their? I can't remember where I saw this the other day, but they put up this old. I think, was it the VMAs? Is that the awards?
Yeah, that's definitely A awards.
Yeah, because I think they were there, and they were
Video Music Awards. I think
the VMAs. Yeah, they went up, and I think Kurt Cobain and that. I think they were drunk or something, but they gave like a little acceptance speech, and they said, "Oh yeah, don't forget about Hitler." Or like, don't forget about it, they bombed. Like, really? I think they were trying to make like a joke or something.
Oh god!
Say something, but it just went so bad. And because Kurt Cobain was just standing there like shit, like we need to finish this. So I think he like walked away. He's like, oh yeah, remember what was the name of Goebbels? Yeah, remember Joseph Goebbels? And then like walked away, and I was like,
why are you talking about Nazis?
I don't know. I think it might have been a joke they had planned beforehand, but it bombed. Yeah,
I think Kurt Cobain had some stuff going on though.
Well, yeah, he definitely had something going on in the background.
Insider scoop. I think he might have had some mental health issues. That's a very sad story though.
Yeah.
Because there's a few. Who's in the? Is it the 27 Club?
Club 27. Yeah. Who is it? Is it Amy Winehouse?
Amy Winehouse is in it.
A couple of people were really close to being in it, but missed it by a year.
I'm trying to get to. So there's quite a few. Jimi Hendrix.
Jeez, yeah, some big names.
Asphyxiation.
Who's that?
Like strangling. Janis Joplin. Drug overdose.
I was about to say that was ironic.
Jim Morrison.
Yeah. Was he only 27?
Yeah.
Guess
there's quite a few here. Oh, Jean-Michel Basquiat. How do you say it? Basquiat, the artist.
Basquiat. Jean-Michel Basquiat. I think
Basquiat, yeah. He pretty famous artist. He's a pretty cool guy. Kurt Cobain, obviously. Trying to see if I recognise any other ones. There's quite a lot of people in this that I didn't realise.
Now, I wonder how famous you'd have to be part of Club 27.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who die at 27 who probably aren't recognising this.
What's the premise behind it? Is it it's literally just people that all died at the same age, or is there some kind of like?
It's so the Wikipedia just says it's like a list of popular musicians, artists, and actors who died at 27.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's nothing else behind it.
It said that there's a claim that there's a statistical spike for death of musicians at this age, but it's been disproved. It just remains. It's kind of like a cultural phenomenon, and I think probably it's maybe like Janis Joplin as well. It's probably maybe been, as with anything, like made bigger than the actual issue is. But it's interesting that it did happen, and it is sad. Kurt Cobain was great, but then again, maybe everything happens for a reason, because Dave Grohl has gone on to do amazing music, and maybe part of it was because of the part of the emotions that he had with losing Kurt. He could put into, because the first Foo Fighters album is he records everything himself. So the first album, even though it's called the Foo Fighters, is just him. He records the drums, guitar, bass, sings, the vocals, everything, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And then they kind of grew the band after that. Because the guy, Taylor Hawkins, is that his name?
Sure.
The drummer. I saw a really interesting interview with him, and it's in Abbey Road in the BBC, because he was touring with Alanis Morissette, and then he met Dave Grohl, and then Dave Grohl was like, do you want to be the drummer for the band? Because they had another drummer who couldn't cope with the recording. Because I imagine that, and Taylor was saying it was very difficult to do the recordings, because I suppose it's very difficult to record drums like perfectly.
Okay.
It's very different from playing it on stage. Because on stage you can have a bit of flair, you know, whatever, but the recordings for drums have to be very precise. And obviously, like, the guy who's in the booth is Dave Grohl. Like, I imagine that would be incredibly intense. Even though he's playing guitar.
Yeah, definitely.
He's already had a famous career as a drummer in Nirvana, and then he wants you to then record the drums. So in the interview, Taylor was like, the first album that he did with the Foo Fighters, half the songs he recorded and the other half Dave recorded.
It's like trying to record a song in front of Hans Zimmer.
Exactly, yeah. Trying to like compose something or do what's it called when you lead the orchestra?
Composing.
No, what's the thing where you have the little stick in your hand? It looks like you're doing magic.
I think you call it composer.
No, it's not.
Yeah, composing.
There's a specific name for it, and I can't remember, and this is seriously embarrassing.
Yeah, what is it?
Conductor.
Conducting.
Jesus God, yeah. We are really dumb, aren't we? There's a conductor, yeah. But yeah, so that's Dave Grohl, amazing. And actually, I would say in my top 5 albums is Them Crooked Vultures by Them Crooked Vultures, which is a kind of super group of Dave Grohl of Nirvana and Foo Fighters, Josh Homme, who is of Queens of the Stone Age and Eagles of Death Metal, and John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin.
Ooh, okay.
Have you listened to that album?
I haven't actually. No, that sounds pretty good.
You know, one of the songs, I play one of the songs quite a bit. I'm not going to try and do the song now. I'll show you later on. You know which one I'm talking about. Literally such a good album. Yeah. Such complex songs.
Yeah.
Like ridiculously complex songs, but like just real cool rock and roll, but kind of like new age rock and roll in the kind of the way that Led Zeppelin was a bit experimental. You know, when he used to play the guitar with the violin.
Really? Oh yeah.
Have you seen that? Yeah, did the solo with the violin and stuff like that. That was
really cool. Actually, I love when
people
cool. kind of go against the grain like that.
Yeah, I'd love to go. I mean, I really, considering we're in Glasgow and there's so much great music here.
No, we don't do a lot.
We don't see a lot of music.
We don't, no.
Because quite a few people that I know are in bands now, playing at Tuts and stuff like that.
No, we should give it with, because I think a couple of your mates are really good actually, from people that we've spoken to before.
Yeah, Ali Robertson is amazing, and my pal Sam O'Neill, who's in that band Stolen Years, and then I know Adam McMonagle from uni. He's in a band called The Beefeats. The Beefeat? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's funny, but those are just to name a few. Yeah. Denny Smith, who used to be in Ents, she's got her own music, and Alistair Tibbs. That's just a handful. Actually, 3 of those are ex-Ents alumni, so that's pretty good going for the entertainments committee.
There's that girl as well that played the harp. Do you remember we went to go see her play?
Oh, Beth Malcolm. Folk music. Oh God, the list goes on. Yeah. We're not naming everyone. I'm not naming everyone. This is just off the top of the head. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good music in Glasgow. We need to do more of that actually.
Do you think Scotland and Ireland and the kind of historical oral tradition and the folk elements, do you think that breeds more musicians? Because I know more musicians probably from uni than I do from like friends from home.
What, in comparison to England?
In comparison, yeah.
I don't know. Difficult to say actually, because it's a different kind of music up here. I don't know.
But not all of them are folky. Though,
yeah, no, they're definitely not folky. But I don't know. I'd say maybe music, especially kind of like up north, and that kind of Cayleys and stuff like that are very big. I'm not sure about Ireland. I imagine it's very similar. Kind of like everyone meets up in the local town hall and has a dance, and you've got like people playing the.
I think you'd find in a lot of Irish pubs there would be guys in the corner playing songs.
Yeah. Because that's what I noticed because I went to Belfast. Was it last year at some point? And nearly every bar we went into, there was always kind of like a small band playing for pints at one of the little booths. Yeah, and I thought that was amazing, and it's very similar to up in Scotland as well. We have a lot of live music.
Do you think there's like a hardship creates better music? Do you think that in
tough times make tough men, and tough men make soft times, and soft times make soft men.
What? Maybe. No, I've heard that. I don't know. That doesn't necessarily relate to music.
No, that's
but maybe you find in like communities that historically struggle, there's more likely to.
Yeah. Well, it's like the people. African Americans and blues and all that,
and soul music and stuff like that. And does that come from?
Definitely, yeah. Because I definitely say that music's very closely tied to kind of like your emotions and kind of your like mental state, I'd say. And you'd definitely be a lot more creative in a situation like that, I think, because it has to be like that's like your outlet of expression.
I found it easier to write songs about love lost than about anything else.
Yeah.
And I'm not a prolific songwriter, but I've written a few songs, and the majority of them are about.
Well, I've got a very like dark creative side, because whenever I create anything, kind of be it like music or whatever, it always seems to be very dark. Always in terms of music, I love a good minor chord. And trying to make something very kind of soulful and almost like a ballad.
I think it's more difficult to write happy music.
It is, yeah, because it seems to be a bit faster, at least.
Is it? And also, you run the risk of maybe it being a bit superficial. I think it's quite difficult to write a happy song that isn't satirical.
Yeah, definitely, actually, yeah.
And maybe that is just from our kind of cynical Britishness that we do it. I'm sure there are some happy clappy Americans who can write, well, like all Christian music.
Yeah.
Like, well, not all Christian music, that's a sweeping generalisation, but I imagine that if you're writing Christian music and it's based on like the love of the Lord, then it would be easier to write positive music then.
Well, what about that gospel churches? Because they've got quite a lot of, I'd say, kind of darker stuff. No? I think. Or is it more about kind of like?
Now we're dabbling with getting into the intricacies of religious music.
Yeah.
And I think that like
the older Christian music's really like the modern really kind of like praise Jesus, all that kind of stuff. That's all very upbeat, but the kind of the older stuff is definitely a lot more kind of ethereal.
But that's what I'm saying is like if you look at kind of like Catholic hymns.
Yeah. Well, if you just look at the Catholics.
Yeah, Catholics in general. So if you look at the Catholic here, as a Catholic, I feel like I can say this.
Yeah.
If you look at the Catholic stuff, it is predominantly kind of about damnation and suffering.
You got the original guilt and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Which is whereas I feel like maybe more evangelical stuff is more about being saved by the Lord and like through the Lord I found the light and all this kind of stuff. So there's going to be different kind of, there's going to be almost like a basis of how and why it's been written is going to change music to music. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is interesting. It's in different genres as well. You find different things. Like there's a rapper called Little Dicky. Do you know Little Dicky?
Oh yeah, I love Little Dicky. Actually.
Yeah, and there's a song he does which I think is quite interesting. It's
got all the cartoons, isn't it? He does his music videos are always cartoons.
Yeah, and he does a song with. Actually, were we talking about it? I think Dom might have brought it up with us.
Might have done.
It was when we were in the Colours Rest, and Dom was saying that he liked Little Dicky because he is kind of like a white guy who's like fairly middle class. Like he hasn't had the struggles that a lot of rappers talk about.
Yeah.
Coming from like bad neighborhoods and having to like choose music over, another lifestyle. But his kind of thing is saying like, it doesn't mean I can't rap.
Yeah.
Like I had different struggles. And there's a song he does with Snoop Dogg. Mm-hmm. I'll find out what it is now. Mm. But it's quite interesting. Like, do you think it's difficult to be in a genre and have a different tone, a different voice?
Well, it's difficult to say because it can make you stand out. But it's like with different kind of like countries having have kind of like different kind of like themes to their music, and it's just like what I was gonna bring up earlier on when we were talking about musical instruments was that kind of I feel that there's a similarity between languages and music. Mm-hmm. Because it's each instrument is almost like its own language, and you like use it to express yourself in a certain way. But and then you can translate that same song to a different instrument, but it's not the same, and you have to like adjust for it. Do you know what I mean?
I get that, but I also think that stylistically, songs are. Sorry, not songs. I think there's a lot of different styles within the one instrument. Like, so the way that I play guitar, in my limited knowledge and ability, is one way of playing it. Yeah. But the way that, and it's probably more suited to like acoustic stuff, because I predominantly played acoustic stuff, or smaller venues, and also like hand tapping. Yeah. Like I might tap on the guitar. Whereas like if you're playing a guitar with effects, the way you play the guitar is very different. Yeah. So I have to be quite heavy on the strings, whereas if you're using an electric guitar, you don't have to be as heavy. But then I went to Stavagen and saw the folk guitarists, and the way they play the guitar, and like the rhythm that they play with the guitar, and the chords that they use are very different. Yeah. And
it's like gypsy jazz guitar.
Yeah, like when you were getting into the accordion, you were sending me some of the gypsy jazz stuff. The way that they play the guitar and they move around, all that stuff, like it's very different style. Yeah. So I would say that that instruments can have different voices.
Oh, definitely.
Rather than an instrument is its own finite voice.
But and I just say that instruments are very unique voices. They can be kind of like put in different dialects.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
They have a unique sound.
They do, yeah.
But you can also make them sound differently. So those guys, the Shadowhawk duo, you know, the guys who play like techno songs on guitar.
Oh yeah, no, I've actually. The two guys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. They've done the Fringe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're really
They're
cool.
Good. Yeah, no, I like that. I remember seeing them doing Darraghs Sandstorm.
Yeah, that's really cool, and it's really. I like some of the
timeless song guys.
Yeah. Is that Zombie Nation? Yeah, Zombie Nation.
That's the wrong one.
I'm trying to work out what it was in my head, and then like. And then like there's loads of cool ones. I actually learned some of them. They're quite fun. I can't play them as fast as him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Very impressive.
And there was another story that I wanted to tell you about, which I briefly talked on earlier, about music and how it's really interesting, like sharing music. Yeah. I think it's quite a nice thing to be able to do, just to be able to share music. And there can be sometimes people can be a bit like, oh, I don't like the music that you like, or I don't want to listen to it, or it's not cool, or it's not trendy. Yeah. But I think if you're willing to open up and listen to new stuff.
Exactly. No, I completely agree, because like what I think is that there's no real type of music that I don't really like. I like any, as long as it's good music, I'll love it. Like I find a lot of people are very snobby with their music. They're very kind of like, oh, this is the only kind of music that I really like. And you try and show them something else, like, no, trust me, you really like it.
Yeah.
But they don't really give it a chance.
I think there's a high degree of snobbery in music. I think that people often think they know better.
Yeah.
Or there's often... the thing that also annoys me is, so we know a lot of like quite big techno heads, for instance. And there might be a song that I like. Yeah. I'm like, oh, this song's cool. And they're like, oh, that song was released like 2 years ago. There's much more up-to-date stuff now. Yeah. And it's like, it doesn't take away from the song. Mm-hmm. And I think that some of the music going back in time...
It's like a fine line.
Yeah. Or like, you know, music, everything's kind of cyclical in the world, but I've gone back and started to listen to some older stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the bands that I've been listening to a bit recently has been the Cranberries.
Oh, Zombie.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And Mum always tells me that my first ever concert was before I was born. Okay. I was in my mum's womb, her tummy, and she went to a Cranberries gig. Yeah. And they obviously play all their music. And then, like, about a month ago, I was in one of those like YouTube spirals where you're just watching stuff on YouTube before you go to bed. And I was on the NPR Tiny Desk gigs. Really, really good.
They're good.
really, really good ones. Anderson .Paak one is amazing.
Yeah.
Matt Miller one's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it got onto the Cranberries one.
Mm.
And I don't know if this was placebo or what, but like I was listening to it and I got a bit emotional and I started thinking about my mum and I was like, there's obviously this connection that we've had to the music because she would have been listening to it a lot when I was in the womb and at the concert and stuff.
It'd be like certain things like triggering memories, like, you know, you get a certain smell, you're like, oh, it just takes me back to...
Well, it was something that I want to talk about with like Alzheimer's and their belief that kind of some of these people who can't remember things, if you play the music, they start to remember stuff.
A seamless transition, Darragh.
But so for instance, if I hear the song Keane, Somewhere Only We Go, I distinctly remember being about 6 or 7. I hope that works out with when it was released. I'm not going to fact check that.
Someone will do the
math. In the early 2000s anyway, and I was in our house and I was in my room like playing on the ground, on the floor, and it was like a really bright day and the windows were open, the sun was coming in, and I distinctly remember my room was like next door to my parents' room and I was on the floor playing with toys or whatever, and my parents were in the next room kind of getting ready or pottering about, and Keane, Somewhere Only We Go was playing. And it just, every time I hear the song, it's such a distinct memory. And I remember that. Do you have any ones like that really... Because I think it's...
I say, well, definitely with Christmas music. Like the Little Drummer Boy. Do you remember that song? That one, great song. That just reminds me of like whenever I was younger, just being up in Aberdeen. I remember just listening to that in my room and being obsessed with it. And also another one was "Lonely Pup in a Christmas Shop." That was my Christmas anthem when I was a kid.
Lonely Pup in a Christmas Shop.
Do you know it?
I don't know that song.
Okay. Well, familiarise yourself with it.
Okay, I'll have a listen of it.
It is a jam. It's so much fun.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
But it is interesting with music and how powerful it is. I find it definitely at work. When I'm working and it's like a busy shift.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of playlists that we have which are kind of like, I think whoever set them up was obviously listening to music through like the 90s and the noughties, which is kind of a lot of the music that we grew up on. But it's basically like, it's pretty cheesy. It'd be like going to like the pop room in like Bamboo. It's pretty cheesy bangers. But it is literally just anthem after anthem. And when the music comes on and it's really good, it does lift your mood. Do you know what I mean? It is funny how much music can change how you feel.
Oh, definitely. It's like thing I was talking to you about earlier on with kind of how every atom in us is like basically made up of like a frequency, and they kind of, as you kind of receive kind of vibrations, like everything around you is vibrating.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I think minus 273 degrees Kelvin is when everything stops. But
and what's Kelvin is different to Celsius.
Yeah, and I think that is the lowest possible temperature things can be. I think that, or at least that's when every atom stops moving. Is minus
273 Kelvin. Yeah.
Is
Kelvin what the Americans use?
No, that's Fahrenheit.
They use Fahrenheit. You use Celsius. Is Kelvin different?
I think Kelvin is just for like really, really low temperatures. It's like nanometers.
Okay.
Like that. It's just a different
measurement.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, like as you kind of the vibrations come into it, like it makes sense that it would make you kind of feel differently because your body's working differently. Like the core parts that are you are being affected differently.
So do you think the way that like upbeat songs kind of generally have a beat maybe between like 100 to 120 BPMs or something like that? Do you think that maybe when you're happy, your body vibrates at kind of some way the vibrations equate to that kind of music.
Yeah.
Because if you hear say you hear proper rave stuff, here's every time you want to move.
Yeah, definitely.
You it makes you want to
But even
just instinctively,
yeah.
you want to just jump around and go. Do you think is it to do with those vibrations then?
Yeah.
Is it that the frequency of the music
is affecting how you work?
Kind of tempers your vibrations in your body, and then you react to that.
Yeah, because definitely because it's well, I don't know how true this is, but I'd say every time that I play music at home, even my dog comes through and sits underneath me, and I'm not sure whether that's just because she loves me or whether it's because she wants to be near music. But every single time I kind of play music, she always kind of comes through.
Oh, not play music on a speaker, you're actually physically playing either
music,
your banjo or guitar. Okay,
or
they're just attracted to it.
Yeah, and also I remember when I was younger, I used to do a bit of singing as well. And the lady that I used to practice singing with, my vocal coach, she had a dog that would come through, and every time that we'd do the whole kind of la 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 la, that whole thing, the dog would come and it would start singing along with us, but going.
Oh really?
No, that yeah.
Well, dogs kind of are much more heightened to sound than we are.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe there's something to do with the vibrations there, because if the dog was closer to you, it was closer to the vibrations, it was closer to the sounds, it's easier for it to interpret it.
Yeah.
So there's probably something in that.
Mm-hmm.
But so you've done a bit of research on this vibrations and consciousness, is it?
Yeah. So there was an article I was reading earlier on today, which was talking about how basically different types of instruments can affect different parts of your body. Let me just see if I can find it. Well, for example, one of the ones that I saw was that Vice did something on was the brown note. I'm not sure if you heard of that, Darragh. It's basically
I can kind of guess where this is going.
Apparently, it's a frequency that can make you shit yourself.
Really?
And it's basically we've seen it in kind of popular culture for decades, and kind of different movies. People play a certain note.
Yeah, and then everybody shits themselves.
Yeah. I haven't gotten through the whole article though, but you should check it out on Vice.com.
Does it actually make people poo?
Well, I have to find out.
Because I remember when I was doing some work experience not long ago with my cousin, and it was at a part we were in a conference room doing work, and it was kind of towards the end of the day, and we were kind of losing a bit of focus. Mm-hmm. And something came up, and it was this sound frequency that only younger people can hear.
Yeah.
And so my cousin, who is in her 30s, and there was someone else who was maybe a bit older, we played the music, and me and a couple of the younger people in the room were like, oh God, fucking turn it off. And they were like, what are you on about? We can't hear a thing.
It's like a dog whistle.
Yeah. And because they use it, they play it in areas to stop young people loitering. Have you heard about that?
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's
That's
in America.
So fascinating.
So it's of a frequency where when you're younger, your ears can hear. I don't know the theory behind it.
No.
Again, no fact checking.
Well, it might just be your brain kind of it loses the capability of being able to hear something.
Yeah, maybe it just dulls down with time. But basically, we were I was grabbing my head. I was I'm actually in pain. It hurts. And they turned it off, and they were like, "Are you guys taking the piss?"
No.
So they actively sent us out of the room.
Yeah.
And then listened to it again to see if we were joking, but their ears just couldn't pick up on it. It's really interesting. But they actually play it in areas in, say, I'm guessing maybe inner city areas where people would loiter. They play the sound so that young people don't congregate.
That's a big crime, though, isn't it? Loitering.
Yeah, I don't really know the ins and outs of it. It does feel a bit kind of oppressive.
Well, because I remember I was reading something the other day where they basically said that loitering people started being arrested for loitering was just after the criminalization of slavery in America, and it was after everyone got released. They just wanted reasons to arrest people, and take them back into this kind of a slavery type thing.
Oh, what? So if you were post abolition of slavery, if you were arrested, you were essentially again a slave.
Well, that's kind of what you are nowadays in America.
Yeah, it's big business.
You could argue, because
that's what Ricky Gervais said in his Golden Globe thing. Did you hear the joke about? Yeah.
But yeah, they just kind of apparently they wanted an excuse to arrest black people, so they invented the crime of loitering.
I didn't know that. Yeah. We're gonna have to do a bit more research into that.
Do your own research. I get my
before we make some.
I'm not sure if my brain's deceiving me, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was about.
Well, that was interesting, man, to talk about music for a bit. It's we're both quite passionate about it.
But it always comes back to slavery, no matter what.
Always comes back to slavery. We're slaves to the slaves to the beat. Slaves to the beat.
Love it. Thanks for listening, guys. For all the latest news about the podcast, find us at RTTW Josh and Darragh on Instagram. Bye.